And a big welcome into the 3 a.m. Coney podcast. Football is back. The Bengals are back. The 3 a.m. Coney will have actual football things to talk about instead of everything we've been talking about this offseason. I mean, the summer period is certainly clickbait season for those of us that try to produce content for the Cincinnati Bengals. But I hope you enjoyed some of the offseason content we did. It is now in-season content, so what you can expect from us today. Before I go any further, please like, subscribe, share the show. We're at 200 subscribers. Thank you so much, everybody, for getting us there. I'd like to get to 300 and 400 and 500. The more we have, the more I want to do it, the better backgrounds we can get, the better stuff we can do on here. A whole bunch of opportunities can open up if you just hit that subscribe button, and it costs you nothing. So if you could do that for us, that would be great. Today on the show, we're going to talk about the preseason game against the Arizona Cardinals. We won't start with that, though. We're going to talk about some Bengals news off the top. Kim Kardashian is involved in the Bengals news as well. But before we get to any of that, I want to discuss the simple fact that the Bengals are back and the preseason is back. And although I'm not really that excited about the preseason, but I've never been this excited about the preseason. And I don't even know why I'm excited. I obviously it's Bengals football, but there's something about the run that they went on last year and the amount of highlights that I've seen from the 2021 season. And the fact that it didn't end with a Lombardi trophy makes me want to see more. So every time that I've seen the 2021 highlights, I don't think about 2021. I think about 2022. So I'm really just tired of seeing the same old clips and the same old highlights over and over and over again. I'm ready to see these guys on the field once again and just to get new highlights and move on and be on to a new season. Because I think that's so important for the Bengals franchise, for the Bengals players, for all of you that follow the Cincinnati Bengals to move on and into 2022 and appreciate what happened in the past and celebrate it when we see it instead of thinking about, oh, what's it going to be? So I'm just so thrilled that it's finally here. And I'm thrilled that you're here with us on the show. First, I want to start off with this incredible hype video that the Cincinnati Bengals produced. And I want to watch it with you because watching it with you is going to make me excited. And if I'm excited about it, then we'll all get excited together. And I want to make sure that you saw this video for the hype today. Here we go.
In the jungle, if you have fire,
and if the audio's not working,
you have power.
Then enjoy the visuals. Is all I have to say.
And the Los Angeles Rams are going to win the Super Bowl.
And this team.
Oh, it paused. Listen, the internet messing it up. This is how I'm getting a wired connection next time, and this will never fail once again. I'm giving it one more try. We were right here on the video.
And the Los Angeles Rams are going to win.
They've got Dan Orr faded out.
Has a fire within us.
I love this image of the confetti, and sorry to do a video breakdown about a preseason hype video, but this image of the confetti and like then them saying that's the fire. Ooh, I like it. I do like it. Although I want to move on from this, we do have to recognize where we've been.
All of this power came from the pain. I put in twice the work, but I never complained. I hit him where it hurts, cause I know what it takes. And if you scared of the flame, don't speak my name in no vain.
But just all these plays, I just keep thinking about 2022. You know, and I think Willie Anderson said it best. Willie Anderson talked to the team as I'm going to stop the hype video there. I mean, you guys can go watch it on Twitter. But Willie Anderson said it best when he was talking about what he talked about the team with. He said, hey, guys, don't let last year, these highlights that we're watching right here, don't let that be the best year of your life. Because if it is the best year of your life, then you've kind of failed. So when I see those highlights, I'm thinking the same thing of, man, I hope that's not as fun as Bengals football will ever be. And that's why I'm so excited for 2022, because I think we're on the precipice of something different, of something greater. Now let's talk about our next story. Could Chris Evans, not Captain America Chris Evans, our Chris Evans. So I came across this tweet, Odds Shark, Kim Kardashian next boyfriend odds. I'm very upset with Kim for breaking up with Pete Davidson. I really like Pete. Thought they were a great pair. I thought it was a great signal to women all around the world that you should just find a man that makes you laugh. You don't have to worry about all the aesthetic things or any of that stuff. And, I guess not, so that kind of ended. So now we got next boyfriend odds for Kim Kardashian. The world keeps spinning. Van Jones at plus 800. I don't know why Van Jones, CNN analyst, would be at plus 800, but you go down the list, it makes sense. Oh, she gets back with Pete Davidson, Ray J. We know what happened there. Nick Cannon, Jamie Foxx, and then Chris Evans. And most people would think in pop culture, in Bengals universe, we would immediately think, oh, the third string running back from last year, the kickoff returner down the back end stretch, the guy that I can't wait to watch in the preseason tonight. We'll talk about him specifically in a second in the preseason. But then it says Cincinnati next to it. And you're like, they're not talking about Captain America. They're talking about Chris Evans, the running back of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm getting that right. And Trent Taylor tweeted it out. Is this possible? Is this something that could happen? And should Bengals fans even want it to happen? That's another question. Should Bengals fans even want Chris Evans to date Kim Kardashian? We saw what happened when Tristan Thompson started dating Kardashian. That's still going on today. Cavaliers fans think that cost him a championship. So, no, if Chris wants to do that and he's happy, then go for it, Chris. But that was one of the funniest things I saw in Bengals news was the fact that Chris Evans made the odds list. First off, even if Chris isn't talking to Kim Kardashian, even if this came out of absolutely nowhere, even if this is a mistake from Oddshark, it's got to be pretty cool for Chris Evans to be included on this list. I mean, look, this is an A list. You've got the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, and current FBI investigatee or whatever's going on. You've got Johnny Depp, Eminem, Michael B. Jordan. I mean, an insane list to be on. Harry Styles, Kanye. Van Jones is probably, honestly, I think Chris Evans will end up being more famous than Van Jones if he ends up fulfilling his destiny as a player, which I think he has a chance to do. And that's where I want to get into this preseason preview. I want to take a look at some of the players that are going to be critical for you to watch. And how to watch the preseason is just to focus on one guy. The full plays, the full scope of it, it's never going to be as cohesive as you'd like it to be. The full scope of the way the offense looks, the play structure, this play feeds that play, this guy standing there feeds this standing there, the unit working together. That's going to be tough. But individuals doing their job on individual plays is the best way to watch the preseason. You pick a guy and you watch him pass block when you normally wouldn't in the game. You pick a left guard, Jackson Carman. We'll talk about him tonight. And you watch him and you focus on his specific play. And that's how you watch the preseason. That's how you get some enjoyment out of it. And later tonight, we'll have the breakdown of the preseason game. So when I talk about Chris Evans making this list for Kim Kardashian, maybe his confidence will take an even bigger boost because I think he is the player to watch from a Bengals fan's perspective and a fantasy football perspective for this preseason, for the entire preseason. We'll see how much he plays tonight. I know they might be splitting some snaps between Trevion Williams, but I know Chris Evans is going to get some run because he should get some run. Right now, he's listed as the third string running back on the depth chart, even though he's clearly the second most talented runner. And then he is the most talented pass catcher in the group. He's the second most talented runner in the group, but he's third on the depth chart. And so when those things are combining, you ask the question, okay, what's going on? Does he not know the playbook? Is it just Zach Taylor trusting Samaje Perine? I think it's just Zach Taylor giving the edge to the veteran Perine. Chris Evans has had some things he needed to clean up in terms of pass blocking, although he scored a good pass blocking grade for PFF, but only on 7 snaps. So too small of a sample size to make any judgments. The Bengals clearly didn't trust him in those situations. To be the third down back, if you need to keep him in on a blitz, can he do the job and protect Joe Burrow? I think they were worried about that a lot last year. With a worse offensive line, that's something you definitely should worry about. And I think that this preseason is just the chance for Chris Evans to take the job the Bengals are leaving on the plate for him. They're like, here you go, Chris. We know you're the best pass catcher out of the 3 running backs. We know that you're the second best runner out of the 3 running backs. And we know that you have the athletic ability to pass block in this system. And we might not need you to pass block as much this year because our O-line's significantly better. Now, all I need you to do, Chris, is to produce in the preseason. We give you the football and you produce, and you make these second string defenses look like milquetoast. And I think that's why Chris Evans is the player to watch from a Bengals perspective, because he can move up in the depth chart. From a national fantasy football perspective, I think Chris Evans has a chance to be the most important handcuff you can have. One of the most important handcuffs you can have. Obviously, that depends on the load of Joe Mixon. But Joe Mixon isn't always on the field on third down. So I think having a very talented, very athletic backup of Joe Mixon in Chris Evans on your fantasy team, that can turn into a split really quick just to preserve health, because that's how talented Chris Evans is. And we saw that in flashes. We saw that in spurts last year. We've talked about it on the show. We talked about it on the show after he was drafted 2 years ago, before he even took a snap with the Bengals, how high of a ceiling that this guy had. And it might have been the school bit at Michigan that kept him off the field rather than the football bit. Now it's all football, and I think he's really embracing that role. He is the player to watch tonight. That could be a significant yardage, touchdown, fantasy relevant, famous type of Bengal that can play tonight. I think Chris Evans is the player to watch. Now, we've got some other players to watch. One of the main guys that I'm focusing on, Jay Morrison was pointing this out. I read a lot of the athletic practice reports. Those guys do a great job of keeping us all of us that can't be at training camp in the loop. Player to watch to me, Kwame Lassiter II, because this is another thing that I have written about on Stripe Hype, that I have talked about on this show, that's going to be an important part of the Cincinnati Bengals in 2022. Punt returner. Punt returner. Lost you a game against the potential Super Bowl matchup in San Francisco until they lost in the NFC Championship. You've got to be able to return punts. Not only was there a problem with Darius Phillips fumbling the football, there's also been a problem since Pac-Man was returning punts with this team of having a top 10 return game or a top 15 return game. It has been middle of the pack at best. Alex Erickson's best season, he finished 10th in returns, in yards per return. And they have not had an explosive threat in the punt return game since Pac-Man. Now, I think Adams' biggest flaw was that he would never fair catch the ball. And then he was often tired from just playing DB to force the punt. So it was often difficult to ask of him. But the dream for the Bengals was for them to find a very cheap, under contract, very cheap, highly athletic wide receiver who could theoretically play wide receiver for you, and he's an incredible punt returner. And if what we're reading from practice is true, Kwame Lassiter is that player. He's big, he's athletic, he can catch, he can run, he can juke, he has the respect of players, and he's undrafted, so he's got a little bit of chip on his shoulder, and he's super cheap. So the Bengals are circling Kwame Lassiter like, okay, if you want to talk about impact on winning a Super Bowl this year, the two players to watch tonight, other than, I think the obvious one is Jackson Carman because he's the listed starter. The two players to watch that aren't current listed starters is Chris Evans and Kwame Lassiter II. Because if those two guys are high-end explosive athletes and you toss them into this, I mean, we are loaded down like the United States rolling onto Normandy in World War II right now. And if you let Kwame Lassiter II, if he is what Bengals fans dream him to be, and if Chris Evans is what I think he can be athletically, I don't know what to do in terms of judging this room. There's going to be so much talent everywhere for Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor to work with, and it's going to be cheap talent. And I just think that if those two players hit offensively, I mean, Jackson Carman's the obvious one. He's a listed starter, though. So, yeah, the guy that's starting that's in a competition, he's definitely somebody that we're watching tonight. But in terms of guys that aren't listed starters right now, that at the end of the season we could go, man, he produced so much yardage, and there were so many big plays that helped the team win games, it's Chris Evans and Kwame Lassiter II. Once I say that a few times, Kwame, I'll get it. Don't worry. I think you're going to end up, he's going to have to be a great punt returner to make the roster, Kwame is. He's going to have to be a great punt returner to watch the roster, to make the roster. Other players to watch, there's a lot of them that we're running through. I think the easiest one for fans to watch is going to be the long snapper, holder, punter competition. So you've got Clark Harris and Kevin Huber that have been there for a very long time. Kevin Huber is one game from breaking the all-time Bengals record in games played. One. And he was elected a captain by the special teams last year. He is beloved by Darren Simmons, Zach Taylor, Mike Brown. He is beloved by the entire special teams. He is a Cincinnati native. This job is like tailor-made for Kevin Huber to keep. All he has to do is just be within 5 percentage points of Drew Chrisman. But the way I'm reading these camp reports, he's just not as a punter, and Drew has caught him as a holder, and Evan McPherson is able to make kicks just as well with Drew Chrisman holding as Kevin Huber. And that spells bad news for Kevin, because this was meant to be a competition last year, and now you have all these franchise-type things where Kevin can break a record. He's a Cincinnati native. He was elected a captain to your special teams last year, when he might not have been if Drew Chrisman were in camp bombing punts the way he has been this year. So it's going to come down to in-game punting for Kevin Huber and Drew Chrisman. And this is what the preseason's about. I analyze punting when I shouldn't talk about it. But Kevin Huber, if you took his playoff punting average of 42 yards, it would have been dead last in the NFL last year. If you took Kevin Huber's punting average from the playoffs, it would have been dead last in the NFL. So the Bengals are looking at that and going, that's somewhere we can improve. And if Drew Chrisman provides that improvement without harming Evan McPherson, which it doesn't seem like he has at camp, and if it doesn't harm him in the preseason, and Chrisman outpunts Kevin Huber, they'll move on. So Kevin Huber, Drew Chrisman, huge players to watch. And the snappers is just like, as long as we don't see a ball get snapped over somebody's head, we'll feel pretty comfortable. But Bengals fans have been there. We have been there. Other players to watch, I think the left guard competition, we talked about Jackson Carman. There's rumors that he's mature now. We'll see. I mean, when I read that entire story, I really questioned your lifetime of decision-making. If I'm me judging Jackson Carman, but he's under contract. They need a left guard. And he's got to just show that he's mature and has made those steps that people are saying that he's making. But I'm not sure if I believe in it. And that's why I'm really excited to watch Cordell Volson, because we know that even if Jackson Carman is good this year, will he be good next year? If the Bengals win the Super Bowl, they have a parade. Is Jackson Carman going to be in great shape next year? We don't know. That's why you don't draft immature guys. But Cordell Volson is the epitome of maturity. And if he has the talent to play on an NFL field, it would be so much better for the Bengals to have Cordell Volson win that job emphatically. Although I don't think that's going to happen this camp. It might happen next camp. And it gives the Bengals more cheap options everywhere in terms of offensive line, which is huge. So Cordell Volson, definitely a guy I'm watching on the offensive line. All the rookies, Dax Hill, Jeff Kunter, Zach Carter, all those guys are players to watch in this game, obviously. Now, Jeffrey Gunter, the 7th-round pick out of Coastal Carolina, we get a lot of hype and buzz in training camp. So it would be fun to see him inside. Zach Carter, too. These are physically imposing presences. Man, the further I get from college, the worse my English gets. But these guys are huge guys. They're athletic. But are they just beating up on a bad Bengals offensive line? That's the worry when you're reading those camp reports. So it'll be great to see them in a game against a Cardinals team that is middle of the road in offensive line. They aren't exactly great. They aren't exactly the Pits. But they did get pretty much exposed in that playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams. And Kyler Murray got exposed through that. Now, the Bengals offensive line got more exposed in the Super Bowl against the Rams, but Joe Burrow still ended up with 100 passer rating, 22-33, and was one damn play away from winning the game. So that's the difference in the quarterbacks. We won't see either of them tonight. In terms of quarterbacking, just if Brandon Allen doesn't suck, it's not a headline, the quarterbacking. If Jake Browning's great, he could maybe be he's already the 3rd string. I don't think he's going to pass Brandon Allen. So There's not really much to watch in the quarterback room. You got Kendrick Pryor, other these undrafted guys that have made splashes in the training camp reports that might make their ways onto the field. And there's going to be a lot of guys getting a lot of snaps. It's going to be a lot for us to track in the preseason recap. But join us later tonight. Matt Roden will probably jump on with me as we react to the first Bengals preseason game. Basically just getting the ball rolling of what we're going to do during the season, which is a preview video either the day before or the morning of, and a recap video of the Cincinnati Bengals game. Hopefully we've got 24 of these suckers, right? Well, hopefully 23 because we want the bye. So hopefully it's 3 preseason games, 17 regular season games, the divisional, the conference championship, and the Super Bowl. 23 shows, that's 46 shows from us, 23 games, and hopefully a damn Lombardi trophy. That's what we're hoping for. Thinking of this hope to win a Lombardi trophy, I obviously did some research that has been done by many, many people before, but I wanted to do it myself, and I wanted to take you through it. And those of you watching the show, I really appreciate it if you could leave a comment or like, share, subscribe, let people know about the 3 a.m. Coney, because we have fun on this show. And we do previews, and I talk about stats, and I do insane research like this that I don't get paid for because I love the Cincinnati Bengals so much. I'm so excited they're back. So I analyzed the last 26 Super Bowl losers, and I went back to 1995. I just picked a random date. 95 sounded good. And I just went through year by year, and I basically just wanted to take a look at the group of the 26 Super Bowl losers. A lot of people have done this specific research, but I wanted to do it on my own. I wanted to go through Pro Football Reference page by page and really learn about all these teams and what were the pitfalls after losing a Super Bowl? What were the benefits of losing a Super Bowl for some of these teams? What happened to each of these teams? I'll have some broad stats for the 26, but I wanted to basically take you through the story. So I just did this sheet where I did year by year. I have horrible handwriting. And I think there's going to be a big theme that you notice when I take you through this list. It's going to be about quarterbacks. That's what this is about. That is 100% what this is about. And I've got a tweet to show you since 2006. Actually, it's a great time to bring that up right now. Since 2006, which is when the NFL kind of modernized the quarterback position, when the NFL said, listen, we need the quarterbacks, Brady, Manning, to be the center of this league. So since 2006, here's the Super Bowl losing quarterbacks the following year. The group that made the playoffs and the group that missed the playoffs. And there you see it on the screen. And it's pretty obvious, Bengals fans, which group Joe Burrow is in. And this is my biggest problem right now with everybody talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm talking to you, Stephen Ruiz, and I'm talking to you, Sam Monson, and I'm talking to, I think, James Jones from the NFL Network. All 3 of them have predicted that the Bengals will miss the playoffs this year, while at the same time saying Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback. These things cannot exist simultaneously. It goes against NFL history since 2006. You either think this is what you have to be doing. If you say the Bengals are not going to make the playoffs this year, there's one rational argument I will take, which is that the AFC is a historically powerful conference, and there will be 2 elite quarterbacks left out no matter what. And you have to hammer that hard. But I don't really, if you really do believe, which Stephen Ruiz and Sam Monson, all these guys have said, that Joe Burrow is a legitimate top 5, top 6 quarterback in this league, look at the list since 2006. Mahomes, Brady, Matt Ryan, who won an MVP, Russell Wilson, Peyton Manning, Colin Kaepernick, Ben Roethlisberger, and Kurt Warner made the playoffs. The ones that missed the playoffs the next year, Jimmy G, Goff, Newton, Castle, Grossman. Which group are you putting Joe Burrow in? Because if you say the Bengals are missing the playoffs, you're putting him in that second group. You're saying that Joe Burrow is more Jared Goff than he is Matt Ryan or Tom Brady. And that's not even to consider where the Bengals are roster-wise. So this is the argument I need people to make because they're scared of the Joe Burrow hate. Stephen Ruiz caught so much crap from Bengals Twitter that he got embarrassed out of being hypercritical of Joe Burrow. He's waiting for it, though. He said he's waiting for it. I cannot wait to criticize Joe Burrow. But he wants to hate, so he's going to predict the Bengals to miss the playoffs while saying, yeah, and that doesn't mean I'm not saying Joe Burrow's not a great quarterback. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Joe Burrow's not elite. But if you are predicting the Bengals to miss the playoffs this year, unless obviously the things about injury and extenuating circumstances, if you are predicting them to miss the playoffs, you are saying that Joe Burrow is not elite. You have to say both things at the same time. You cannot get away with, it would be against NFL history since 2006. It would just be going totally against what's happened every year since 2006. So that's what you need. That's what you're doing if you're making that prediction. Just to let you know. Okay, let's go year by year with all these teams and go through the Super Bowl losers and basically what type of team they were. Say hello to my cat, Nemo. Sorry, wrong shoulder. All right, let's start in 1995. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost the Super Bowl to the Dallas Cowboys. They went from an 11-5 team to a 10-6 team. Now, the simple rating system is one of the coolest things that Pro Football Reference does. They take the strength of schedule. They take the strength of schedule of the team that played, and then their points for, points allowed, and they have a simple rating system that allows you to compare teams across eras because of how tough their schedule was and then how well they scored against that schedule. Simple formula, doesn't include yards or anything crazy. And I've found over my time looking at football that it's often the simple things that do the best. And so I love SRS and simple rating system to judge exactly how quality of a team certain teams were. And this SRS was a great tip-off just for an example of it. In 2015, the Carolina Panthers, yes, they were 15-1, but they had an 8.12 SRS, sixth in the league. You would think a 15-1 team would be first, blown away. They were the best team in the NFL. No. It was only an 8.12, which is below a lot of these teams that we'll see that lost in the Super Bowl on this list. So you could almost see what was coming for the Carolina Panthers the next year, which was a 6-10 record, because of the heights they reached and the fact they didn't get it done and they fell off the table. In 1996, you had Drew Bledsoe in the New England Patriots. So the Steelers, who were well coached, had a good quarterback, won a wild card game the next year. They actually got better in their simple rating system rating. The 96 Patriots, same thing, got better the following year after losing the Super Bowl, but they both lost in the divisional round. And Bengals fans, I know it's going to be tough to hear, but if this team wins one playoff game this year, it's a successful season. It's going to feel like a failure, but if you just tell me every year the Bengals are going to win a playoff game and be in the final 8, that's all you can ask for. Because once you're in the final 8, as we just learned, it's about the breaks. Where does the ball bounce? Who's hurt? What's the timing? Because we were this close to Randy Bullock ending our season in the divisional round. This close. So if this team is winning one playoff game and getting to the final 8, that's success. And really, when you look at this, there's a lot of Super Bowl losers who at least reach that minimum. Then you look at the 97 Packers. Brett Favre is the quarterback. Oh, they made the playoffs too. They got a little worse in SRS, but you got to remember, the 97 Packers, that was the end of their 3-year. Brett Favre was an MVP 3 times, and it was the end of their run. So them falling off the table a little bit was expected. The Bengals aren't exactly at the end of their run. The 98 Falcons, their quarterback, Chris Chandler, they pull a huge upset in the NFC Championship game, and they go from 14-2 to 5-11. They go to they're one of the worst teams in the league, 26th in simple rating system. But who was their quarterback? Chris Chandler. And the only significant thing Chris Chandler did in the NFL was win that NFC Championship game. So if you think that Joe Burrow is Chris Chandler, be my guest. Ride that train, okay? Have fun riding that train. 1999 Tennessee Titans, who's the quarterback? Steve McNair was an MVP. They got better the following season. They went from 18th in simple rating system to 2nd. They repeated their 13-3 record the 1999 Titans did in 2000. They got the first round bye, and then they lost in the divisional round. Tough. Sucks. But that's a great season. That's not a Super Bowl hangover. The 2000 Giants, 12-4 to 7-9. Not a good quarterback. The 2001 Rams, they lost to Brady in that heartbreaker, and Joe Burrow has talked about Kurt Warner specifically taking that Super Bowl too hard. The next year, Kurt Warner, 3 touchdowns, 11 picks, and an 0-6 record. Fell off the table, kind of ruined his own career although he's a Hall of Famer, so I don't know if he ruined his own career. Ruined his career with the Rams, and the Rams let him go, let Mark Bulger take over, and it was the end of the era for them as they fell off the table. The 0-2 Raiders had Rich Gannon coming off an MVP season, got old, turned 38. He sucked the following year. Raiders went 4-12. 0-3 Panthers, who fell off the table. Who's their quarterback? Jake Delhomme, 11-5 to 7-9. They actually got a little better by simple rating system. They weren't a great team that made the Super Bowl. They weren't a great team the next year, and they had a little bad luck go against them, and that's why they were losing. We're going through the Super Bowl losers here. I just love going through information like this. If you hate it, skip ahead, 5 minutes, and we'll do some analysis about it. You look at the 2004 Eagles, they go from 13-3 to 6-10, but remember, they had a bunch of drama with Terrell Owens after they lost that Super Bowl, and it was Donovan McNabb, who Eagles fans would tell you is not that good. And it was all Andy Reid. That's what Eagles fans would tell you. I kind of like Donovan McNabb, but Eagles fans say he's not very good, and Donovan McNabb is more Jared Goff than he is Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, like we talked about before. Which group are you going to put Joe Burrow in? So out of the quarterbacks we've gone through, is Joe Burrow, Jake Delhomme, 38-year-old Rich Gannon, Kurt Warner in his own head, Chris Chandler, or is he more Drew Bledsoe, Brett Favre, Steve McNair, the good guys? I don't know, a guy that had 70% completion and led the league in yards per attempt and had 34 touchdowns and got MVP votes. I'm going to guess that he's probably more the good guys than the bad guys, but I don't know. Call me crazy. 05, Seattle Seahawks. They have Matt Hasselbeck. They make the playoffs the next year. Matt comes in at number 50 on my all-time quarterback list. So, hey, credit to Matt Hasselbeck, leading that team to 9-7 the following year. Won a playoff game, lost in the divisional round. So even though they got worse as a team, they still made the playoffs, hung around because Matt Hasselbeck wasn't that bad. Although I would take Donovan McNabb over him. So those are maybe some weird examples. The 2006 Bears fell off the table 13-3 to 7-9. Why? Rex Grossman. 2007 Patriots missed the playoffs the following year, but they were 11-5 when they missed, and that was the year that Tom Brady tore his ACL after they went 16-0 and lost in the Super Bowl. The 2008 Cardinals, and this is the example that I want to hone in on, because we mentioned this on the 3 a.m. Coney Twitter before, so give us a follow there if you want to see some of those tweets. And I've talked about this time and time again. The Bengals, if you look right now on DraftKings, are plus 2,200 to win the Super Bowl. So I went back through the preseason odds of every Super Bowl loser, and the Bengals at plus 2,200 are the lowest odds, so the least likely by Vegas to make it back to the Super Bowl since the 2008 Cardinals, who are plus 2,800 before the season. So this is what the NFL is saying. This is what Vegas is saying, is that the Bengals as a Super Bowl loser were just as talented as that 2008 Cardinals team that had Kurt Warner. Now, remember that Cardinals team. Larry Fitzgerald in his prime. So Larry Fitzgerald is the Jamar Chase. But Larry Fitzgerald was in the middle of his career. He didn't get better the following season. He was just Larry Fitzgerald. Jamar Chase, year 1 to year 2. T. Higgins, year 2 to year 3. These are jump years for these great players. Kurt Warner was at the end of his career. Kurt Warner was ready to decline. Joe Burrow is 26. The oldest player on the Bengals defense is 28. That Cardinals defense was aging. There were so many more reasons to doubt that Cardinals team than there would be to doubt this Bengals team, because of the roster construction, because of the age of the players, because of what happened in the following offseason, all of it. There were more reasons to doubt the Cardinals. So what happened to the 2008 Cardinals? Well, if they were plus 2,800 and there were reasons to doubt, they should have fallen off the table, right? Oh my gosh. They improved their record the following season. They went 10-6. They were a better team. They won a playoff game. Why? Because Kurt Warner's a good quarterback. And he wasn't in his head this time. Incredible. 2009 Colts. Who's the quarterback? Peyton Manning. Oh my God. What happens the next year? They made the playoffs. Wow. Okay, we go to the next year. 2010 Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger. I've heard he's a pretty good quarterback. Oh my God. They went 12-4 again. 12-4 to 12-4. Their simple rating system only went from 3rd in the league to 7th. 2011 Patriots. Who's the quarterback? Tom Brady. What happens? They go to the AFC Championship game. 2000, and this is the modern examples. It gets even worse. So when we talk about Super Bowl hangovers, this gap from 2000 to 2007, where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 8 teams didn't make the playoffs the following year. If you actually go to 2008 on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the 13 teams, 10 of the 13 previous Super Bowl losers made the playoffs the following year. One of them won the Super Bowl. One of them made it to two of the 13 made it to the AFC Championship game. So I really don't know where this comes from. 2011 Patriots. Tom Brady again. 13-3 to 12-4. Went to the AFC Championship. 2012 49ers. Colin Kaepernick was still decent. They improved their record the next year. They improved their simple rating system the next year. They win the wild card game, the divisional championship game, and then lost on that Richard Sherman tip pass in the corner of the end zone where he grabs the mic and he says, I'm the best corner in the league. If you're going to try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're going to get, which is an incredible press conference. I love Richard Sherman for that. But at the same time, 49ers were one play away from making the Super Bowl the next year after losing the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick. Now, who would you take? Would you take Joe Burrow or would you take Colin Kaepernick? That's all I'm saying. 2014 Seahawks, they lose in the most heartbreaking manner possible for an NFL team to lose a Super Bowl at the goal line with the Malcolm Butler interception. Well, they must have fallen apart, right? Oh, no, next year. They still go 10-6. They improved their simple rating system to second in the league, and they won a playoff game. Oh, my God. Why is that? Oh, Russell Wilson's a good quarterback. 2015 Panthers, Cam Newton. Oh, man, MVP of the league, 15-1, 6-10. Well, where's Cam Newton at now? Did he really make it far in his NFL career? No, he did not. That team was 6-10, fell off the table. 2016 Falcons, Matt Ryan, not even that highly thought of, MVP, but still playing today, still a pro quarterback, 10-6 record, 9th in simple rating system. They won a playoff game. 2017 Patriots, that's the one everybody knows because that's Tom Brady again, who Joe Burrow's been compared to, and they won the Super Bowl the next year. Now, the next two examples in this list missed the playoffs the next year, okay? The Rams and the 49ers. Both of those teams have already replaced those quarterbacks, and both of those teams, the Rams 3 years after they made the Super Bowl and lost, and the Niners 2 years after they made the Super Bowl and lost, made it to the Final Four, and the Rams won the Super Bowl. So whatever happened in the beginning of this millennia to kick off this idea that Super Bowl losers have a disadvantage compared to everybody else going to the season, it's just a myth. It's just a complete myth. Here are the full numbers. So of the last 26 Super Bowl losers, 58% made the postseason. Now, there are 32 teams in the league, guys. 14 now make the playoffs. So what's that percentage? 14 divided by 32. It's only 43%. So you're more likely to make the postseason if you made the Super Bowl and lost than if you're a regular team. 34% of those teams won a playoff game. Following year after losing a Super Bowl, team records, 239 and 178, 57% of the wins. Simple rating system of 2.96, good for 12th in the league. And that's with Chris Chandler and all these garbage quarterbacks dragging it down. So do not believe this nonsense. Do not worry about it. And don't overreact when something goes wrong. Because the Bengals are back. Okay? The Bengals are back. Things are going to go wrong. It's not going to be easy. They might lose in the postseason, but this is a good team. This is a good team that's going to win a lot of games, and they're going to blow some teams out. So get ready for the ride. And we'll see you tonight to recap the preseason opener. Thanks for hanging in with the rant about the Super Bowl teams. I did that research. I wanted to share it. So I'll see you guys next time.